first thing I actually wanted to mention was that the BBC have actually interviewed a trans person about an issue. They actually brought a real trans person on the BBC to talk about an issue that's affecting people in the country. The massive issue that they have decided is a good time to bring a trans person on to talk about is about the massive uproar around Mr. Potato Head becoming gender neutral. No, not bring a trans person to talk about the fact that we're denying healthcare. You're not going to bring a trans person on to try and counter the kind of the bullshit machine gun that's being fired from the turf sphere, that's being given free reign on all of the BBC's platforms. No. The perfect thing for a trans person to be talking about on the BBC is gender neutral Potato Head, which is the news that Hasbro have taken the Mr. away from the Potato Head line, their line of products around potatoes. Now, it's not the Mr. Potato Head line anymore. It's just the Potato Head line. Now, what this is not is Mr. Potato Head being turned gender neutral. There will still be individual products that are called Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head. It's just Mrs. Potato Head isn't like the Mrs. version of the Mr. Which is interesting. If you've watched Feminist Frequency, we all kind of heard about the tropes versus women in video games by Anita Sarkeesian. The second video that she did was called Miss Male Character, where she talks about how we see the masculine as the default, and then the woman is like the woman version of that, hence naming Miss Male Character. Which is, I guess, like their kind of angle that they're going with here. The angle that they're going with is that, well, it was previously the Miss Male Character, she was the Mrs. Potato Head of the Mr. Potato Head line, whereas you now have just the Potato Head line and then Miss and Mr. versions of that, which isn't entirely unreasonable. But I hate to blow everyone's bubble, but if we're all thinking that Hasbro are doing this to be super woke, or because, as the chuds might say, they have been infiltrated by Marxist SJWs who are using their power to be able to subvert the Western values that were previously held by these corporations, or the corporations themselves are full of Marxists trying to cuck our good Christian European world, right? What they're actually doing is making money for their shareholders. Because that's what companies exist to do. That's the only thing that they exist to do, is to generate profits for their shareholders. And they have made the calculable decision that in the current political landscape, the thing that they can do to ingratiate themselves to more potential customers is to appeal to gender neutrality. Which is just capitalism. That's just appeal to popularity, right? That's just how capitalism works. If you want to sell more things, right, you're going to make your product something that most people are going to like. Whereas what it also is, I don't think that it's just some kind of, virtue signal for profit. That's not what I think it is. It's definitely for profit, but I don't think it's that. What it is perfectly calculated outrage marketing. So you'll remember when Nike decided to get Colin Kaepernick on one of their adverts, right? How Colin Kaepernick was going to be the face of Nike. We've all seen the H-Bomber Guy Woke Brands video, right? And essentially, because Colin Kaepernick got featured on one of their adverts, the whole of the chud sphere lost their collective minds. They completely lost their collective minds. And they were suddenly being outraged. They were burning their shoes. They were cutting the Nike swooshes off their socks. The whole internet was just a sea of outrage. Just a bunch of triggered conservative snowflakes pissing their collective pants over the bad football man being put on the advert. Right? Now, there's a very important point here, and with the Gillette and Keurig and all that kind of stuff, that when these things happen, and they go viral, and there's this massive, cultural backlash, right? There's one word that gets put all over the internet, right? And that is the name of the brand, whether it will be Mr. Potato Head, or Potato Head now, I guess, or Nike or Gillette, right? These particular brand names become viral. Do you know what that is? That's marketing. That's marketing. Like, Nike increased their revenue by $6 billion, like, after the furore over the Colin Kaepernick incident, right? If people were trying to somehow punish Nike by, dragging their name through the mud in the internet on having bad football man Mino like, they completely failed. And what they've also done is the exact same thing with Hasbro. They've literally fallen for it. If they have just not bothered and just ignored it and just said, look, oh, well, this is just some meaningless virtue signal on behalf of a company which has no genuine ties to any amount of kind of social progressivism, then, like, if they just ignored it, then this wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't be getting this huge publicity. When was the last time anyone talked about Mr. fucking Potato Head? I haven't. People, I don't know anyone who buys Potato Head toys. The last Toy Story movie was ages ago, and even then, the Potato Heads weren't even like the character that everybody likes. Like, it's insanity to me. And then they've literally played right into the hands of Hasbro and just decided to put their name all over the internet. You are the advert. You are the people who are driving this. And if you stop acting like this, companies would be less likely to do it. All they're doing is contributing to the perpetuation of this. Which, I mean, to be fair, for a lot of right-wing commentators, that's kind of the point. It doesn't really matter whether the SJW bullshit that they hate stops. It doesn't matter whether Hasbro make profit or don't. They don't really care, the conservative commentariat. All the conservative commentariat they have a story to outrage over, because that's what pays their bills. Do I think they genuinely really care about the deterioration of Western values? Of course they fucking don't. I mean, probably a certain amount of them who do care, right? But the vast majority don't give a shit, right? All they want is another scoop story that they can generate clicks over. And this is perfect clickbait territory. It's like media outlets use negative articles about trans people to get more clicks. Well, absolutely. Although I think that media, I don't think this is media driven. I think this is more social media driven, where the social media drive is just idiots who refuse to understand how the internet works. Whereas when it's media outlets doing it, I think it's more cynical. So when it's media outlets publishing stories about negative articles about trans people, they're doing it specifically to perpetuate culture war issues, to drive the narrative away from the fact that the neoliberal economic policies of the politicians that they support can't be called into question if everyone's too busy complaining about fucking, gender neutral toys, right? Or, if everyone's complaining about trans people in sports, which is another issue that no one cares. I don't know why people care about this. I don't know why trans people care about this. Honestly, I don't give a shit about sport. That's incorrect. I love sports. I've spent all week watching the cricket, watching the test match, watching the T20 over in Pakistan. Like, I genuinely watch a load of sports, but who cares? Who honestly cares? It's just an issue to distract everyone from the things that trans people really need, which is healthcare, which we don't ask, which, as mentioned before, the BBC don't even bother asking the trans people to come on and debate about whether trans people should be able to get healthcare in the NHS. They even bother asking someone that had just like a turf and some, these commentators who do these kind of things. Whereas when you're trying to make something go viral on social media, it's cynical in a different way, when it's just a kind of like, self-centered awareness marketing. Like, it's not, I don't like, there's two basic types of marketing, like awareness marketing and brand marketing, where you do awareness marketing if you don't think enough people know about your product, so you pay for advertising to be able to generate knowledge of this. You propagate your actual brand name throughout places so people know about it, because they might not. Whereas brand advertising is different. Whereas if you think that people already know your brand, you're trying to change the perception of your brand using advertising. So in the way that McDonald's will use adverts saying, oh, we only use British beef and we have all these health and safety regulations and you can now get a salad, right? That's brand advertising, because they know that the McDonald's name is only known for its for the poor quality of the food that they make. So they're trying to change that perception. But that's one. What I don't think. I don't think this is brand advertising. I don't think this is Hasbro saying, "Oh, look how gender neutral we are. Look how socially progressive we are," to try and curry favor with liberals. Right? I don't think that's what they're doing. I don't think it's some kind of virtue signal. What I actually think it is awareness marketing to try and re-hype the Potato Head brand that previously just become a little bit kind of stale. The stupid part is that I genuinely think that just like a gender neutral Potato Head toy is a better idea. Like, I mean, I guess so you can't sell. It makes it harder to sell multiples, right? From a from like a sales standpoint. But it makes more sense just to have a Potato Head toy and then just have all the accoutrement on that comes with everyone, and then you can make whatever fucking anti-Western SJW queer monstrosity that you want. Regardless, like, that's what I want to have, and then I can, we can trigger the conservatives as much as we want by putting the moustache and the long hair and the eyelashes and the beard all on it, right? Just like go fucking ham. That would really make the conservatives angry, and I think that would be a much better idea, because then it gives everyone the most freedom, and you can just market it as Potato Head, and you can make it Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head. But again, that might encourage someone to not buy two of them. So they would never do that. So it's very frustrating watching the internet lose its collective shit over something such a nothing burger, something so completely pointless and devoid of any kind of oh, sorry, my camera's going shit. I'll stop that and restart it. Instead of actually concentrating on issues that really affect people and that might actually change people, you might actually, create some kind of societal change rather than a fucking toy. And that's it. That's all it is. That's all that matters. Do you remember when there was the guy from... When there was the... I hate to mention him on every stream. But you'll remember when there was the Tim Pool fan that Vorsh debated, and he was like, that's the problem with Marxists. They never want to talk about the culture war issues. They only want to talk about policy. I'm like, yes, because policy fucking matters. You could also always sell other parts like glasses or stuff, admittedly, as something akin to physical DLT to get revenue. I mean, that would also work, right? You can just endlessly sell people more Potato Head accessories to get extra stuff out of the customer, right? That makes a lot of sense. Just like, oh God, turning toys into microtransactions. Well, I guess that's just what Fortnite is anyway. The worst part about this as well is that people are still continuing with the idea that they're just getting rid of Mr. Potato Head, and this isn't happening. That's when I heard they're making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral. I thought they were completely taking away the idea of Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head and were just making a generic Potato Head toy. But that's not what's happening. It's just the brand name is being changed. That's all that's happening. They're just changing it from the Mr. Potato Head brand to a Potato Head brand, and then still having both. So these people are literally losing their minds over actual nothing. Because what they think is happening isn't even actually happening, which, to be fair, is the case in half of these culture war issues, where they genuinely think that something different from the actual truth is happening. It's infuriating. How are you supposed to rationalise with these people who can't even bother getting the facts straight about the thing they're complaining about? Not that the left doesn't do this also as well, but it seems to be something that is inherent to every single one of these culture war issues with regards to what conservatives say. Oh God, it really does my nut in. And then, the BBC were just like, we'll have this trans person on to talk about, a fucking children's toy, rather than trying to get trans people on the air to discuss the issues that really affect us. Because at the end of the day, no one's asked for this. Trans people didn't ask for a gender neutral Mr. Potato Head. Feminists didn't ask for a gender neutral Potato Head. SJWs weren't asking for a gender neutral Potato Head. No one was asking for this. So the only possible explanation for this is that it was just a cynical marketing ploy. Captain Quantum, what did you miss? Oh, we're talking about the gender neutral Potato Head. Basically, the Potato Head brand by Hasbro that includes which does still include Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. It is no longer the Mr. Potato Head brand, it's the Potato Head brand, because you can't just assume that the man is the important one, right? Which, surface-wise, seems fine. I don't know why anyone would kind of get their arms up in a twist about this, but again, I don't know why anyone would care enough about it beforehand for it to warrant any kind of change, right? Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Unlike you snowflakes, I'm not easily offended. Now give me my gendered potatoes. Well, that's it. That's, again, it's like the idea that they can call, you know, liberals and leftists as being, you know, triggered SJWs, right? For getting angry about the misgendering of trans people, or, you know, the treatment of trans people within law, within the media, within public discourse, right? Yet as soon as we remove the gender from a potato, suddenly they lose their goddamn minds, right? It's a fucking potato. Like, what was the meme that someone posted in the group before, when it was like a heaven for all of like the cancelled brands? And it was just like, and there was like Lando Lakes and someone from Paw Patrol, or the police dog from Paw Patrol, and Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben, and Mr. Potato Head. Like, it's like, this is the heaven for all the cancelled people, we still remember you. And I was like, these are brand logos. I thought you guys were supposed to hate corporations, or is this just like aesthetics? This is the aesthetics of anti-establishmentarianism, when literally all you care about is supporting the political interests of massive corporations. You just want the corporations to not have progressive values, I guess. Even if they don't actually have progressive values, they just say that they do for internet clout. Well, yeah, exactly. Suddenly there's going to be this drive to protect our gendered potatoes. The neo-Marxists are coming for your potatoes, kids. We must take a stand about the pussification of Western culture. The whole point behind toys being gender first place was because rich families get milk for lots of money to buy entirely new gender groups of products. That's true, but also, in general, there has kind of been a drive towards gendered marketing on toys, and there has been since like the 90s. Like, before the 90s, there never used to be a kind of gendered relationship with toys. I remember going through my mother's Lego when I was a child. Oh, my camera's decided it hates me again. Let me reload this 1 second. Droid cam. There we go, we're back. Well, I mean, so as I was saying, oh, sorry, let me change my camera back the other way around. As I was saying, in the 90s, people toys weren't gendered. Like, I remember playing with my mother's Lego, and it was just a generic Lego with no gender employed. Both a girl and a boy on the front cover of the box, right? Doing the same thing, playing with the same thing. But they realised that you can do better advertising and better direct advertising by making your product gendered, and that actually is borne out in the sales. Like, they were talking to the people who own the actual Lego company and the Lego marketing department. Like, ever since we introduced Lego Friends, the specific girl version of Lego, they saw an increase in profits and an increase in sales, because it's always been a way in which you can drive revenue through gendering products and using targeted advertising that way. But also, yeah, you can, if you sell multiple different types of products, that's another way that you can increase revenue that way, because they have to buy a second one. Are they keeping Mrs. Potato? Yeah, they are keeping Mrs. Potato Head. Just to cover again, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head are toys that will still exist. There is still going to be a Mr. Potato Head. There is still going to be a Mrs. Potato Head. But it's just they're changing the brand name to just the Potato Head brand rather than the Mr. Potato Head brand. Right? So on the box, it will say Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head, and on the top, they'll just say Potato Head, the brand at the top, right? That's literally all that's changing, and that's made conservative Twitter go into this collective meltdown. If actually trying to be inclusive, they should introduce a trans or gender neutral potato character, right? Like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head's child, mixed potato head. That's what we should have had, like an actual gender neutral potato head. But as I said earlier on in the stream, actually, was if you just had the Potato Head box and you just had all of like the accoutrement, all the different bits and pieces that you could put into the potato, like in the same box, and then regardless of who you were, you could create the kind of the gender expression that you wanted out of this particular potato. Gonna have been potato gender reveal parties. Well, that's the fucking, like, it's excruciating. Like the fact that these are the kind of people who will have gender reveal parties, and they say, "Oh, well, the left is so obsessed with gender," and I'm like, "Well, no, it's the right. The right are the ones completely fucking obsessed. The right's the ones who will just like, who will absolutely eviscerate you if you gender their baby incorrectly." Or the ones who will put like the fucking stupid massive bows on their baby girls so that you know that they're never going to misgender your baby or your fucking dog, right? If you misgender someone's dog and they lose their shit. Yet here they are losing their shit over a gendered potato, and suddenly we're the SJW, suddenly we're the triggered ones. It makes no fucking sense. Then that phase where all toys start having that one girl one, like Smurfs and Transformers. Well, that's it. Like, as if we can ever really trust corporations to hold progressive values, like genuinely, rather than ever to do that. To just kind of conform to prevailing to conform to the prevailing cultural consensus, or because it genuinely holds some kind of progressive values, right? Like, who would care? Quite frankly, I think we should reject modernity and embrace tradition and go back to not even supplying the potato. Just sell individual bits and pieces of potato head like inserts, and there's like, there you go, now just stick them inside a potato, children. That's it. Embrace tradition. Yeah, it is more ridiculous than anyone. It's more ridiculous than anyone could have thought. Like, the right wingers will lose their fucking minds over actual nothing, and lose their minds so hard they're literally doing what these big corporations want them to do. I mean, I'm always hungry for chips. Let's be real. Who's not hungry for chips? Just play with actual potatoes. Well, yeah, absolutely. Just play with actual potatoes. This whole thing is another reminder of how mindless and vicious transphobes in the UK. It's the most. God, it's excruciating. We have to keep having these conversations about meaningless cultural issues. Whilst at the same time, trans people having their medical care taken away, their equality under the law scrapped, they're having their access to treatment and single sex spaces, all this kind of things, or have all these things being revoked, having our name dragged through the mud by fucking blue checks on Twitter with no backgrounds in endocrinology, no backgrounds in biology, no backgrounds in sociology, no backgrounds in psychology. All these people with their stupid fucking hot takes have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, going on about trans issues like we're the next people who are destroying society. It's fucking disgusting. I hate it. God, I always said that I would try and be kind of measured on this channel and try not get too angry about these issues because it's kind of poor optically. But this is my livelihood. This is what I have to endure every day. I can barely go on the internet. I can't go on like Twitter without seeing trans people's existence just get treated like this, no level of any kind of civility with regards to my fucking existence. And I just if I wasn't using it for promotion, I would have deleted Twitter already. But, now I have it for promotion, I might as well be a Julia Hartley-Brewer reply guy on Twitter for kicks, right? Just going back to the H1 video work brands, like the controversy by design. Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I was saying that they're just kind of playing into Hasbro's hands with this. The potato head toy itself is probably like declining in sales, probably losing revenue on this particular line. So it's like, what can we do to generate loads and loads of clicks from chuds on Twitter? There you go.